Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Brett Stevens, discipleship pastor here. It's my privilege to bring the last message in this series that we've been doing, Vibing Through the Mid. For those of you who this is your first time, the point of this series, the core idea was to take the wisdom of Ecclesiastes, wisdom for every generation, and kind of draw out how it applies to our lives in a way that we can find the good life that God has for us in our everyday sort of mundane moments of life. And so we use this language, vibing through the mid, drawing from the sort of modern slang, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the language they use to connect ancient wisdom with modern life. So that's what we're doing, that's where we're going. Today is the final day of that series. And so here's an interesting kind of thing. I, this past year, taught 9th and 10th grade English. And it's an interesting experience to go back to the high school that you were at and to teach kids. Like, I'm not so old that I don't remember what it was like in high school. I remember my high school years and my friends and, things that people would talk to me about and that sort of thing. And so I'm talking to these high schoolers, these young kids, right? And I'm telling them about my experiences. And we'll talk and I'll share advice or, whatever I've learned. And it's interesting to see how they receive the words, like they understand the words that you're saying to them, but they don't get the message of it. They don't really take that advice to heart. And it's interesting because I remember being that age. I remember people sharing the same wisdom with me, and I remember not really getting it. So my wife and I had kids pretty young. And we had a lot of people tell us during, long nights, rocking kids to sleep, and our first one was really colicky, and, during all of these experiences, the challenge, the sleepless nights, and all of that, and all of you who've had kids know exactly what I'm talking about. During all of these moments, we had people tell us, the days are long, the years are short. The days are long, the years are short. And we would hear, I understand what that means. But in the middle of a sleepless night, hour 2 of rocking your child to sleep, you say, I don't know, this all feels long, right? Well, now, here I am with a 12-year-old. And now I'm thinking, I have 6 years left before my son goes to college, before he begins to build this life without me. 6 years is just not that long. The days are long, but those years sure feel short now. I didn't get it then. I get it now. But the truth is, we're all like this. We all have these things in our life that we think about, that we learn about, that we experience, and we just don't fully get. Wisdom that people give us about how to live our life, and often that wisdom centers around this reality that you shouldn't wait. Right? When someone tells me the days are long, but the years are short, what they mean is treasure those moments. Take the opportunity to be with your children, to take them places, to give them experiences, to connect with them, because you don't have that much time. But the same happens. How many stories have you heard of someone on their deathbed saying, I wish I had spent more time with my family. I wish that I had reconnected with that person that I had a falling out with. It just doesn't seem like that big a deal now. I wish that I had written that novel that I always wanted to write. I wish that I had gone and seen that place that I always wanted to see. And I bet some of you here today have those very things. Maybe you're not saying I wish right now, but maybe you're saying someday. Someday, I'll go see that place. Someday, I'll have enough saved up that we can take those trips and go do those things. Someday, I can work a little less because my family will be secure. Someday, I can go learn to play that instrument. Someday, I'll go join that group. Someday, I'll write that novel. Someday, someday, someday. And maybe some of you here, more experienced, are looking back on a life of some days and saying, boy, I wish I had gotten around to that. The reality is, we all think we have more time. We all think that we have more time. At the same time, we often become painfully aware that we do not always have more time. I took my son, or I didn't take him, like he was at school, and my wife and I went to the middle school awards ceremony. And they give out an award in honor of a young man who passed away in middle school. It's interesting to go and see that award given out because I was in school when that happened. I remember hearing about somebody younger than me, and I was in high school at the time, or maybe the end of middle school. Somebody younger than me they had a field day outside, right? He's out playing, collapses, and dies before the medical team can get there. We don't always have more time. And we hear these stories, and we know that, that's what's so striking about these experiences, because what do they always say when you hear stories like this? They just weren't that old. They just weren't that old. So we're reading here in the wisdom of Ecclesiastes, and the teacher, the person who wrote this, recognizes this very fact. And so we're going to look here at Ecclesiastes as he talks about the reality of how we should live our life in light of this truth, that we don't have as much time as we like to think. So here we're in the last chapter of Ecclesiastes. And here's what he says: remember your Creator in your youth, before you grow old and say, life is not pleasant anymore. And I want to pause right here. There's this interesting thing that happens when we read the Bible. And the interesting thing that happens is most of us in this room do not know the languages that the Bible were originally written in. So this part, for example, was written in ancient Hebrew. And every language, this is true even for all modern languages today, every language does not exist in a series of equal meanings. In other words, there's not you can just take a word and I'd say pizza, right? Well, pizza's not a good example. We'll take a word like remember, which is the one I'm going to talk about. The word remember, we have a way that we use the word in English, but not every language uses the word the same way. And so the danger that we run into, the thing that happens is we read this and we assume we know exactly what they mean because the words used, we say, well, I know what the word remember means. So this word remember is really interesting, and here's why. Because the Hebrew people use this in two different ways. The first one is the way that we use it, is the opposite of forgetting something. So forgetting something is you had the idea in your head, you sort of were mentally aware of information, and then you can't pull it up. You can't grab hold of it. You can't recall it. And so you've forgotten it. Remembering it is actually drawing that information back out of your brain and mentally holding that information. That's one way that they use it, but that's not always how they use it. It's not even necessarily the most common way that they use it. The other way that they use this word, and you can go to the next slide. This is the word, by the way. So that's what it looks like in Hebrew. The top part is Hebrew. And you would actually, it's flipped, left and right is flipped. So you'll start on the right side and read it, but underneath is what the word sounds like in English. It's zakar, okay? And so this word is interesting because it's used in two different senses. And this next verse I want to show you uses both senses in the same sentence, which is kind of wild. Flip to the next verse. So this is a story. Maybe you've heard of this man named Joseph. Joseph had a bunch of brothers, and he had this dream about how he was going to be better than all of them, even though he was really the youngest. Second youngest. He had a younger brother, but so he had all these older brothers, and he had this dream, and he went and told them about it, which was probably not the smartest choice. He told them, I had this dream about how I was so much better than all of you guys, and they got really upset, and so they beat him up, and they sold him into slavery, which is, I'm sure some of you want to do that to your brothers. And so he ends up in slavery in Egypt, working for this guy. He gets falsely accused and he's thrown in prison. So he's in prison here, with these other people who are servants of Pharaoh. And he's talking to one of them, and he tells him this dream that he had. And he said, oh, well, I know what your dream means. It means Pharaoh is going to forgive you, and you're going to be back in his service. And then he says this, so when it all goes well for you, remember me. This is the way that we use the word. Remember me. Show me kindness. Don't forget about me. Don't forget your pal, Joseph, languishing here in prison. And show me kindness. But then this other word, mention, is how it's translated in English. This is the same word. What he says is, zakar me and show me kindness. Zakar me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. Remember me to Pharaoh, he says. But it doesn't mean remember like have Pharaoh not forget me, because Pharaoh's never met me. What he really means is bring up awareness about me. Let me give you another example of what I mean when we talk about this word remember. This is one I'm sure you've heard. It's from the book of Exodus, the famous 10 Commandments. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Literally it says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And again, the concern for these ancient Hebrew people whose life is communally structured around this day is not that you're going to forget, literally be unable to remember it. What it's saying is, keep it in your mind. Focus on it. Think about it. And so when the writer of Ecclesiastes says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, he's not saying, oh, you're going about your life and you'll be like, oh my, I just plumb forgot that God exists today. That's not what he's talking about. What he's saying is, live your life always thinking about the fact that your Creator is ever present. Live your life focusing on your Creator. Keep him in your mind, starting from a young age. Right? And this advice makes a lot of sense. Think about how young people act. You've all been young or are young now. Right? There are lots of things you want to do in your life. There are lots of dreams and visions and aspirations that you have. And you've got all these goals and these plans and things that you want to do and places you want to go and whatever it is that you want to do with your life. And often, people will have this tendency to say, later, when I'm older, when I'm married, when I'm settled down, then I can focus on learning about God. Then I can go to church. Then I can connect with people. Then I can sort of have this spiritual life. But right now, I want to go out and have fun, and I want to do things, and I want to go places and see things, and I don't have time for that stuff. The writer of Ecclesiastes, this teacher, is saying, guys, focus now on the thing that's important. Focus now on what matters most. So then he goes on, and he gives this really interesting description. It's this poetic language talking about the experience of growing old. Can we hop to the next verse? Yeah. Thank you. So it says this, remember him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is dim to your old eyes, and rain clouds continually darken your sky. It doesn't mean literal rain clouds. He's talking about the fading vision, making it look like everything is dark. Go to the next verse. Remember him before your legs, the guards of your house start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember him before your teeth, your few remaining servants stop grinding, and before your eyes, the woman looking through the windows sees dimly. Remember him before the door to life's opportunities is closed and the sound of work fades. Now you rise at the first chirping of the birds, but then all their sounds will grow faint. Remember him before you become fearful of falling and worry about danger in the streets, before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy like a dying grasshopper, and the caperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember him before you near the grave your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator now while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water jar is smashed at the spring and the pulley is broken at the well. And this sums up his point. He has this long poetic description about what experiences await as you grow old. But this is his point. As your life comes to an end, you don't know when it will happen. So why are you putting it off, he says? Why do you wait to follow God, to do the things that he has planned for you, to live that spiritual life? Because all of these other parts of your life are going to fade and dim and weaken. And someday you will pass away. And all of that other stuff, it's not going to matter to you then. It's not going to be that important. There are things that you can do now that matter. So why wait? And here's how he finishes. For then the dust will return to the earth, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. And this is his sort of beautiful capstone to this, but this is a reference to another verse, which I'll put up here. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. So he says, he recalls this passage, your creation, fitting, right, that he says, remember your Creator, and ends with a reference to their creation. Remember your Creator, he says, the one who formed you out of the dust before you become dust again. Remember your Creator who breathed life into you before your last breath comes. Remember your Creator. Focus on the things that matter, he says, on the things that will last, on the things that are worth doing. Not that we can't go and enjoy and experience our lives. That's not his point. His point is those two don't need to be divorced. I've encountered people who have this mentality, right? Like, in a few years, when I'm done partying, when I'm done going to these places, when I'm done doing these things, when I've had all the fun that I want to have, then I'll get serious about my faith. But right now, I don't want to crimp my style, you know? I still want to have some fun, right? And that's the mentality that many people have. But honestly, right, if we're going to talk about how to apply this isn't just to do with spiritual life. Because there are people in this room who have said, well, Brett, I'm already serious. I'm here, right? I'm serious about my faith. I'm serious about my spiritual life. I want to do what God has for me. I want to follow him. And to you, I would say, what is it then that you're putting off? What is it then that you are saying, maybe later? What is it that you're waiting for? See, we all have those things, those someday I'll do this, someday I want to accomplish this thing. And if you are here and you say, I'm already following God, I'm already serious about my spiritual life, I'm already serious about who he is, and I know him, and I'm not like living some other life waiting to follow him. I'm confident that like me, there are things in your life that you are putting off, saying, I would really like to do this. I would really like to be able to volunteer in this way. I'd really like to pray more. I'd really like to mend these relationships. I'd really like to connect with people. I'd really like to learn this skill. But maybe I'll do it someday, when the kids are out of the house, when I've got my mortgage paid off, when I've able to settle back a little more and work. Whatever it is, there are things that you can do now. Not just a decision to follow God, but all of those decisions afterwards, the ways that you can choose to live a good life now. that to do and pursue things that have more significant impact, that are developing you as a person, that are developing your relationships, that are connecting with people, that are changing people around you. All of these things that will matter long after you're gone. And so I ask you this, the most serious question. Really, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You're not promised tomorrow, but you have today to do something that matters. So as the team comes, let me pray for you. Most holy God, today is a gift from you, an opportunity to do something that just might last forever. So, holy God, would you call to mind those things that we should be doing? Those things that you have called us to, those dreams and hopes that you've given us that we keep putting off. Would you help us to see all of the excuses for what they are? A delay that will never go away unless we choose to follow now. We love you, dear Lord, and today we'll choose to follow you. Amen. So guys, I'll repeat the question. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Whatever it is that you have in mind, this thing that you say, I really want to do this, but you've got a reason, I've got my reasons, I know. The reality is those reasons will never go away. There will always be another reason. There will always be another roadblock. There will always be another limitation. So stop putting it off. Today is the day to do something new, to do something good. So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Go in peace.